All right, let's do a show, everybody. Welcome to yet another edition of Inside Coverage here on Yahoo. We are here every day, Monday through Thursday, with the how and the why of any and everything you need to know around the National Football League. Are you listening in podcast form? We thank you for that. Can you share us, or can you like us? Can you subscribe to us? Can you write a review? I'm told reviews are big these days. I've never been a review person. Like, who are the people that actually write reviews for restaurants? Like, Brenda was amazing, and she brought us extra breadsticks. I've never been that person, but if you could review this show, only nice things, of course, we thank you. If you're watching in video form, yahoosports.tv, that's awesome. Or on the new Fast channel, bam. Like, sometimes when I say this, there's a QR code that jumps up on the screen. You can go to that and find us, the YouTube page. There it is. Look at that. Teamwork. We love you. We thank you. The man in the black hat today, by my side, our NFL writer. Charles, what's your official title? Because I feel like, honestly, we've only been working together for like 3 years, and I love the hat. I have the same, or 3 months. I had the same hat, Cleveland Guardians in Syracuse. I feel like I need to introduce you properly with your official title. So I'm sorry. Give it to me.
Senior reporter. Senior NFL reporter.
Okay. Senior NFL reporter. I should know this, and I could have Googled it. It's like on your X profile. Regardless, sir. Love the hat. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm good. And I will tell you right now, if I am driven to leave a review, I'm very much like the people who comment in all my stories. It's only going to be negative. If I don't say anything, then it's great. Everything went fine. It's swimming. If I'm prodded to actually say something in a review on, like, say, Yelp, it's disgusting. I'm a terrible person, and I have nothing but criticism.
Listen, first of all, you can't read those things. Second of all, it's all about engagement. Third of all, if they are moved to engage, it means you're doing something right.
That's
you're
what
doing
I've been told.
Something right, Charles.
Right.
You have to keep that attitude.
You. I wish you had been here for my Shedeur Sanders rant last week, and then you can look at my social media and tell me if I'm doing something right.
Hey, believe me, I work there. I get it. I totally get it. Are you going to write about Shiloh Sanders being outside the game this past Sunday in Pittsburgh, dressed in a Shedeur jersey?
I'm going to go ahead and take a little vacation from Shedeur Sanders.
You're not going to write about that. Okay, you could.
Okay. Leave it alone.
It's about engagement.
If the guy gets on the field or we need to talk about him on the pod, we can do that. But otherwise, I will just let it lie.
I would actually argue that this is now the time to talk about it, because he is the number 2 quarterback. The number 3 quarterback, it wasn't the time, but now he's the number 2. Remember, the number 2 quarterback is the most popular guy, cliche, as old as it gets, in any NFL town. So now is actually the time, but it's not the time, actually.
We have Frank for that.
Show.
We'll bring Frank. Frank can come in. Frank will tell you. He'll work himself into a pretzel. Shedeur, they got to get Shedeur in there, and then 3 weeks from now, he'll be like, "Wait, he ain't it. Shedeur ain't it. Let's go back."
But as we established yesterday, Frank hates the Browns.
Yeah, well, that's definitely true. I think there's no doubt. Yeah. Frank's got his list. He has the few teams that he. Don't get him going on Josh McDaniels. He'll lose. A blood vessel will burst in his eye. Like, just leave that up.
Now we've gone down a totally different path. Brief tangent. Josh McDaniels has told me countless times how big a fan his mother is of like NFL Network or like the RedZone channel back in the day. And he always like passes along good wishes from his mom. So we now have to get Mrs. McDaniels to like Frank. And then we can change.
Who on earth, realistically, like, who is not a fan of the RedZone channel? Like, I mean, not, like, I love you, Andrew, I do, but like, what kind of just sociopath criticizes the RedZone channel? I mean, come on, it's
Charles,
the candy store.
How much time do you have? Really? Oh, because I've got stories.
We'll do a pod on this one. Well, that'll be a breakout at some point. We can do all the horror stories, the RedZone channel.
I did it for 18 years. Let me just put it this way. People love the show. They've always loved the show, and hats off to David Hill and Eric Shanks, who created the show, and all of us at DirecTV that went there to DirecTV to launch the show in 2005. Very proud of everything that we at DirecTV did to launch that and to really change how TV is viewed. Like, very proud. It's one of my proudest accomplishments. I certainly didn't do it. We had an amazing crew, everyone that I just listed. I was just the guy that hosted the show. That said, people got so used to it they got so used to being super served live content, and my brain's wired that way now as well, that they wouldn't believe you if you stuck on a game that wasn't good. They wouldn't believe you that there wasn't something else better. Or they would complain that in the 4 o'clock window, we only have 3 games. How dare you? How dare the league only schedule 3 games in the 4 o'clock window? I'm like, do you realize there are only 6 teams west of Texas?
Yeah.
Right? So it's just a natural scheduling thing. Well, they should play all the East Coast games at 4 o'clock to make it even. Owners don't want their games, especially after the clocks change, to kick off in the dark at 4 o'clock on a Sunday. They hate that. They hate that. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, people claim that, oh, you're gambling on this game. That's why you're sticking on it. No, I don't gamble. No, I've never heard that one. To change a game because of fantasy. Ever.
Good Lord.
I digress.
I feel like I touched on something here.
No. You only touched on it because you said, why would people dislike it? Everyone loves it. And Scott, by the way, Scott does an amazing job continuing on with this version of the Red Zone channel. Tip of the cap to Scott, certainly. But Scott would tell you as well, there are complaints every single day. And it used to be like, when the two of us are on at the same time, and wow, we're totally off on a tangent. We're going to get to Monday Night Football, I promise you. But Scott would get tweets or even texts saying, I can't believe you said that. And Scott's like, dude, that was Andrew. And I would get texts going, I can't believe you left that game, or I can't believe you said that, or you think you're funny. I'm like, dude, that wasn't me, that was Scott. Because people would go to their buddy's house and not realize they were watching a different version of the show, and it worked both ways, and people would be confused. A crossing of the streams, if you will. So yeah, there's that. You want to talk about the games last night?
Yeah, let's get to it. I was disappointed. I'm in a knockout league, and I thought, I'm watching the Falcons and Bills, and I thought in my mind, I'm like, oh man, a bunch of people are about to get offed. They're just about to get hammered. The Falcons are gonna, and I looked, and like nobody had picked the Bills. I was like, man, it only took clearly everybody got burned the week before, and so they weren't willing to push their chips on the Bills this week smartly. But man, yeah, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about it. And what's to talk about here is that the Falcons beat the Bills 24-14, and the Falcons kind of sort of planted their flag. They're 3-2, but they made a statement last night. Bijan Robinson could be, and he did say Bijan last night, the best player in the NFL. Raheem Morris certainly believes that. They arrived. Their defense is there. Their weapons showed up. Drake London, Kyle Pitts was blocking his tail off. Michael Penix looked like the real deal, and they finally get after the passer, and they looked real. Maybe the reason, and we'll get to the Bills in a second, maybe the reason no one took them in their knockout pool is because the Bills have already beaten the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Saints, and you could argue that they haven't beaten anybody even with 4 wins, but we'll hold that until later. Frank, Raheem Morris in his post-game speech said that was 2 playoff teams out there. You don't often hear a coach tell a team, and this is a young team, that you are a playoff team in October. But that's what we saw last night. And Bijan, for my money right now, is playing as well as anyone in the NFL.
Yeah, I think he's really taken the baton, like almost from Christian McCaffrey, and it's like him and, now, granted, Saquon's not having the kind of season he had last year, but it's like him and Saquon, right? Like I in my mind, I have to believe this is it's an aberration with Saquon, and that they're going to crank up that running game down the stretch. But Bijan, however he wants it pronounced on any given day, in my mind, you watch him and he is as complete a weapon as there is now at the running back position in the backfield. I mean, it's I can't even imagine having a game plan for it. And, especially the way they run the wide zone. And if you're coming on the backside, the amount of work you got to do to make sure you're hitting the hole right and getting that tackle. If you don't do it, that guy can rip off a run. He could go 99, right? If you don't hit the wide zone right. And what struck me is, as I'm watching this last night, I thought to myself, at least where it concerned Atlanta, we went crazy on Michael Penix in week 3 against the Panthers. Now I was texting with another executive in the league, and we're kind of going back and forth. And, I kind of said, we kind of get over our skis with criticism of guys. And but I did say to him, I said, how do you lose 30-0? Like, this team that's beating the Bills right now and looking great on both sides of the ball doing it, how do you lose on the road 30-0? He said, it's actually pretty simple. It's youth. Like, this is a very, very young core on this team, and youth is capable of just having a clunker, like coming out of nowhere, and where things go wrong in a game, and you don't have, you just don't have the institutional memory to know how to get this back on the right track. And I hadn't really thought about that. But and then as I'm watching him beat the Bills, I thought, how many games now has Michael Penix started? Went, look, 8. This is his 8th start. We're not even going to get to a full slate of starts in terms of a full season of starts for Michael Penix until we're deep into December. And so I still think, look, the best to come is still ahead, I think, for the Falcons, and the way they rush the passer. Caden Ellis, when I went through there in camp a year ago, actually I think it was 2 years ago, and they were singing the praises about what this guy could really be at the linebacker position, Divine Diablo. It reminded me the way that they handled Josh Allen, kind of corralling him, but also rushing him at the same time. It made me think of what Detroit did to Lamar Jackson a couple weeks ago, where you're like, hey, they're not just getting after him and pressuring him, but they're also not letting this guy break contain and take off running. It was really impressive.
Yeah, they had 4 sacks last night, and that has always been the thing for the Falcons, really, the last 10 years. They haven't had a pass rush in 10 years. They've thrown money at it, but it's rarely worked. This year they threw money and draft capital at it, and it's coming around. And if you look at the numbers here, they have the number 1 total defense. That's total yards. And in yards per game, they are number 2. So their defense is doing it. And their offense is doing, I beg your pardon, it's the number 1 total D, the number 2 total offense in terms of yards per game, because they've had a bye, so they've only played 5 games. Now, they're not scoring a lot of points. You mentioned the shutout there. Through 5 games, they've only scored 100. Only the Browns and the Titans have scored fewer points, which jumps off the page at you. But if you go on yards per game, they're the number 2 total offense in the NFL. They are clicking on every cylinder. And the highlight of that game is going to be the 81-yard Bijan play down the sideline and the sky cam. That's all really cool. But there was a play in the third quarter, and we don't have the video for it. That's cool. Just, you might remember it. It was a pass to the left. It was a bit of a tunnel screen. And Bijan, probably the average back, gets a yard or 2, maybe 3. He got about 10 or 12. And maybe 5 guys missed tackles. He was like a slalom skier in a phone booth, and nobody could tackle him. That's why he's the best player in the league. It's not the 81-yard run. There are a lot of players. Look at Devon Achane. I was just an hour ago watching some of the Dolphins game with the Chargers from last Sunday to get ready for the Dolphins and the Browns this coming Sunday. Devon Achane, first quarter, you get him in space. You run wide zone. He busts free to the second level. He's gone. You're not going to get him. Catalan said, like, bye-bye, like, good, but whatever it was, there was no way you're going to get him. That's nice. But what Bijan can do and make defenders miss in tight quarters. I used to, as a Browns fan, use the adjective Metcalfian. That was a Metcalfian move, right? Because I remember his first game as a rookie in 89 or 90 as a slalom skier on Monday Night Football, week 2 against David Fulcher of the Bengals in space. I'll never forget it. Like, he was like a skier, like Alberto Tamba going down a mountain at the Olympics. And that's what Bijan looked like last night. That's what sets him apart.
Yeah, I mean, he's the fighter who slips punches, right? I mean, he's the guy who you're just like, when are you going to get someone laying the wood on him and just absolutely putting him down? It doesn't happen. And that's the reputation he had coming out of Texas. He was very elusive, right? Like, you could hit him, but you're never going to hit him square. He's going to, it's like he's slippery and he's
got a Pacquiao quality.
Yeah. I mean, it's traveled, I think, from college to the NFL level. And you just hope, with any running back, I thought about this with Devon Achane too this weekend. We see him break off that big run. And I thought, I just want to see these guys stay healthy, right? Because these aren't 225-pound tanks, right? Like the way it used to be. You're getting the, smaller, quicker guys or just a little lighter on their feet. And, that's the one thing with the Falcons. You mentioned the whole idea that they're racking up yardage, but not necessarily, scoring touchdowns. They're great between the 20s. They're learning still. You can see this. And again, I think that goes back to the youth. They're learning how to finish. And I think as an offense, you have a quarterback who's learning how to finish. You have Kyle Pitts, who's turned himself into, hey, he can block now. And he can be a viable receiver. He can actually be more of a complete tight end. Drake London settled into that true number one role. All I see when I look on that team with that youth is potential, and you can kind of see them starting to grow into it. And I have to believe the Bills, regardless of who they've beaten this season, for that Falcons team, it has to feel like a culture win.
Yeah, absolutely. And Drake London last night, he could have had 2 touchdowns. He got yardage there, but couldn't score at the end of the second quarter. Drake London had as many touchdowns as there was in London last week between the Jets and the Dolphins. So I turn on the TV this morning, Charles. Let's get to the Bills here. And I see, is it the Bills O-line or Josh Allen to blame? And I'm like, blame?
Yeah.
Is it a binary choice between the two? They truly haven't beaten anybody. They had the miraculous fourth quarter to come back and beat the Ravens in a classic when the Ravens were at full strength for the most part. Isaiah likely wasn't there, obviously. They had some other injuries, but certainly more full strength than now. And by the way, I forgot to tell you, Kyle Hamilton is going to join us coming up in a couple of minutes here. But after that Ravens game, the Bills have beaten the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Saints. I don't think it's an excuse, but I think it's an explanation here. The number of injuries for the Bills. And I'm going to go down the list. So either on IR or who didn't play yesterday. Matt Milano, he's missed 3 games. Dalton Kincaid was out. He's got an oblique. Curtis Samuel didn't play last night. Damar Hamlin is on IR. TJ Sanders, rookie defensive tackle they had high hopes for, is on IR. We know the kicker is out. Tyler Bass. Maxwell Hairston got hurt in training camp. He has yet to play. Dwayne Carter, who was a depth piece on the D-line, he's out for the season. Tyler Grable, they swapped out punters. Cameron Johnston is out. Dorian Strong. Who else? Daquan Jones popped a calf. He's going to go on IR, we think. That happened before the game yesterday. And then during the game, Palmer got hurt. Benford got hurt. Bernard got rolled up. Josh Allen banged his wrist. Connor McGovern, Cole Bishop. They all got hurt. They were down 8 starters yesterday. Pump the brakes on the Bills' panic, please.
Yeah, I mean, it's... Again, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. And as you said, when you look at what the roster composition is in this game, and when you have that much talent and experience, by the way, missing, to instantaneously try to, let's just turn it into one thing, right? It always feels like we do that. It's got to be one thing. It's just this one thing. Why? Because it's easy to talk on a talk show about it if it's just one thing. Now, I will say this about Josh Allen. One thing that does have me at least slightly concerned, I think I saw this stat. Unfortunately, I saw it right as we were about to go on. And they had turned the ball over 8 times last year, including the playoffs. And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Let me look at how many turnovers did Josh have this year? He's got 5. He's got 4 interceptions and a fumble loss. And that's through 6 games. So you sit there and you go, okay, well, ball security is clearly an issue, and that'll cut a team down early on. There's no doubt that will create these kinds of problems. That's what you clean up in the bye. I think there's probably been some moments where you wonder why James Cook is not on the field and taking handoffs on key third downs, right? You're like, why is this guy not on the field right now? And even though I know, and I mean, it makes the personnel department's blood boil when you bring it up. But I'm going to say it again. Keon Coleman has not surfaced into that number one option. Khalil Shakir is not a number one wide receiver. Joshua Palmer. These are not guys that you're rolling out there where you're putting the fear of a secondary sitting there going, we can't handle these guys. We can't, if we got to go man coverage, there's no problem doing that against the Bills. You can handle them with man coverage. You can handle them with zone. They don't have guys who bust certain defensive looks. I will say, actually, the one guy they probably do have who is a mismatch is Dalton Kincaid, but you can't keep him healthy between last season and now this season. So I still think that's got to be cleaned up. And I will give the Bills this. They're active. They're always looking for ways to make that team better. And I would expect that if this is something that continues to linger on into early November, they will be a trade deadline team that will potentially be looking out there maybe for a wide receiver.
Josh Palmer, who, conveniently I dropped on fantasy last week, had a 50-yard bomb to open up the Bills' first drive in the first quarter, but then he got hurt, and then it kind of all went downhill from there. And look, James Cook is rarely on the field on third down. That was a big thing during his contract negotiation.
I don't get that
here in the offseason. Oh, look, he scored all those touchdowns, but he was never on the field on third down. Well, last night he actually wasn't on the field for a single third down, not one. And Sean McDermott was asked about it after the game. He said, yeah, we're going to look into that. He was asked about it again this morning after the Bills got home, and McDermott met the media again. And he said that he had already spoken to offensive coordinator Joe Brady about that today. James Cook's your best weapon. He's had a couple of very big games through the first part of the season. You need him on the field as much as possible. We'll leave you with this. Say what you want about the Ravens, and we'll talk a lot about them coming up next. Kyle Hamilton's about to join us. The Bills have 4 wins. Those 4 wins have come against teams that have a combined 3 wins. You heard me correctly. 4 wins against teams that have combined for 3 wins. Coming up next, one of the teams they beat was the Ravens, who are off this week. They are 1-5. Kyle Hamilton, nice enough to join us regardless on his bye. It's Inside Coverage on Yahoo. It is always great to have a guy who is an all-pro and one of the better players at his position, or really any position in the National Football League. Join us on Inside Coverage here on Yahoo. Kyle Hamilton, how the heck are you, man? Thanks for joining us.
Doing well, Andrew. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, we're going to get to Toyota and everything you're doing with the military kids coming up in a second, because it is truly a worthy cause here. We talk, however, on a Monday as you guys head into a bye after a loss, and you're sitting here at 1-5. Kyle, knowing there's so much talent on this team that's probably getting healthy right around the corner, as you get to the bye and step back and reassess, how do you look at the team and how you move forward?
Yeah, I think in this league, your record is who you are. And I think, we have to be humble about it and can't say that, we've been wrong by injuries or this and that. I mean, stuff happens in the NFL, but we definitely have the guys to go out there and win games, especially in these first 6 games, and we just haven't done it. So, it's on us to hit the ground running after the bye week and put ourselves in position to be competitive.
There's always a fine line, right, between excuse and explanation. Like, the injuries aren't the reason your record is what it is. The injuries, certainly, especially the last couple of weeks, could be at least an explanation of why these last few games have gone wrong. Your injury, part of it, obviously. You missed the Houston game. Zach Orr said you have to get your swag back. How do you get your swag back?
I think that's something that comes with, 1, playing better in the games, and 2, going into the games, first and foremost. Just playing free. I think that's a big thing. Just playing football in general is playing free and not thinking, because when you overthink, you overanalyze, and then you underperform. And I think that's very true. Most of the plays I've made in my life, I don't even remember what I was thinking. I was just out there playing football. So I feel like a lot of guys say the same thing, and it's see ball, get ball, and I think that's how you get your swag back, just how you played when you were 5 years old.
Personally, have you ever been through anything like this?
My 7th grade football team went 0-7. So I was quarterback of that team, so that was on me. Marist School 7th grade boys team, 0-7. But we flipped it around, went to state championship my junior year, lost that. Went to the semis my senior year, lost that. So I'm due for a win at some point.
You were the quarterback. Were you a good quarterback?
Triple option quarterback. I was a glorified running back in the old wing T offense. But, yeah, I stopped playing quarterback 9th grade. Obviously, my record wasn't very good.
Joking aside, obviously Lamar coming back would be huge. And Cooper Rush and Tyler Huntley played in this past one. You have not gone, have you, to Todd Monken and said, put me in coach on the other side of the ball? Because, Kyle, that is kind of in vogue these days, the two-way player thing.
I mean, that would be a blessing if they gave me a snap. I don't think that would help our chances as a football team. Respect to Travis Hunter and Dion and all they do. I don't think I'm those guys when it comes to playing offense. But I can give you a few snaps at receiver in a pinch.
All right. I mean, why not get in there, play receiver? You do look at the standings, though, right? I mean, you do realize you're 1-0 in division. You still have 5 division games to go. You still do get the Steelers twice. I mean, I saw them firsthand yesterday. With all due respect, I don't know that they're running away with it. So when John Harbaugh says, "Listen, even at 1-5, it isn't over," you can buy that and believe that, can't you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have to at this point, because if you don't, then why are you here? Yeah, obviously, we're all in this together. We've dug ourselves in this hole, and we got to get ourselves out of it. But at the same time, this league is the best in the world for a reason. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. It's a week-to-week league, and anybody could lose to anybody on any given day. So whatever people say about our schedule getting lighter, whatever it may be, I don't think that's something that we really need to buy into. I think we approach every game with the same mindset, because everybody's capable of winning a game in this league. So it's up to us to really lock in, and obviously we made the track a little harder for ourselves going forward, but I think we're the right people to do it.
How did the Odafe Owe trade resonate?
That's a little above my pay grade, but I'm happy for both parties. I think Duff, he got a new place to go shine, and I think he had a sack yesterday, so super happy for him. And Lohi Gilman was my kind of big bro at Notre Dame when I got there my freshman year. He was a senior. He was my roommate in freshman fall camp, and talked me off the ledge, and kind of is a big part of why I played good my freshman year. So it's good having him back in the building again and be on the same team as him.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up there. He's got some Maryland ties as well, Naval Academy, lived in Annapolis, so he's back there. You guys do have a bond. How can his presence there, and whether it's a factor of where they deploy you, deep or at the line of scrimmage, how can that help this defense?
Yeah, I think it provides us with a little more flexibility, just duality as a defense. Gives us kind of something to up our sleeves that we can go to whenever we need to. And I think Alohi himself, just as a person, as a player, ultimate professional, he got here on a red eye, I think, Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, and played pretty much every snap in the game on Sunday. So it just goes to show how smart he is, how resilient and just locked in he was the whole week, and played well at that. So just happy to have a guy like that in the building, and he kind of fits in with what we're trying to do.
Yeah, can you imagine doing that? Because we saw that with Tyson Campbell yesterday. He played Monday night, got to Cleveland Thursday, left his bags in the locker room, went out there, met his teammates, and then was 1-on-1 with DK Metcalf all day on Sunday. Greg Newsome the same way, worked the other way. He went to Jacksonville and then ended up on the field on Sunday. Fans, and I know, look, fans often see you guys almost as like fantasy avatars, and they don't understand like the real world aspect of it, like getting on a plane and leaving your family and then living in a hotel and unpacking your bags. And then you're not just going to work the next day. Like, you're on national TV, 1:00 spotlight, the whole world is watching.
Yeah, it's the crazy part of this league. And obviously it's a business at the end of the day. And, people trade for people and they want to see their product out on the field producing. So I understand it, but I can't really relate to it because it obviously hasn't happened to me. But right. I called Alohi right after the news broke that he got traded. And I was all giddy and excited, like super excited to have you here, this and that. And he's just like kind of shell shocked and like thinking about how he's going to move his kids, his wife, and thinking about all the logistics and everything. And I had to take a step back and be like, oh, okay, I'll let you handle that. Let me know if you need something. Excited for you to be here. So, but again, just props to him for the way he handled this week. Super happy to have him going forward.
Last thing, what are you actually going to do on Sunday for the bye? You going to sit on your couch and like drink beer and watch games?
I might have a beer. That sounds good. I might have just maybe a cerveza or something.
Yeah,
around a Modelo.
Dude, you enjoy a day off is my point. Like,
we'll do.
Go enjoy the week, Kyle. We appreciate you taking the time, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Very gracious of Kyle Hamilton to join us during a bye week. There are better things to do during a bye week than sit down and do an interview for a podcast or a TV show, and I truly do mean that. A lot of guys take a well-deserved break with their family and don't do anything, so truly do Charles Robinson, appreciate Kyle Hamilton joining us. I don't know how they fix it, though. The easy answer is, just get healthy. Lamar will come back and they'll be fine. It's more than Lamar. It's certainly Roquan Smith on the defense as well. The defense has been the issue. I have no doubt that when Lamar gets back, the offense will get back to form. Maybe they're not going to score 30 a game, but they'll start looking like themselves again. But Lamar's not going to fix the defense. They get the Bears after the break. You'd expect John Harbaugh to be able to turn things around. But it's an interesting watch right now in Baltimore.
Yeah, and even when John Harbaugh, the quote where he was talking about Lamar coming back, and just the way he worded the quote was so weird to me, where, he's basically, I'm like, is he saying to Lamar, man, you better be back? It kind of just felt like there's a sense of desperation there that I think is starting to become.
Is it the one about the psychiatrist?
Yes,
okay,
that one. Yeah, can you read that?
Here's the quote.
This is so weird.
If I was on the couch with a psychiatrist right now, if I was spilling it, I would have to say I'm leaning really hard into that, really hard. Meaning that Lamar can come back and fix things. For any kind of psychological well-being, spiritual well-being, I'm leaning hard on that happening. So I'm very hopeful that that happens. In other words, he's trying to convince his team that the quarterback coming back will fix things.
Yeah,
but is that the right message? Because I would be telling them, hey, the Savior's not walking through the door, not trying to make it religious, but one man coming back isn't going to fix things.
Right. Yeah. No, it's you do the Dan Campbell thing, right? You're like, hey, it's all of us. We're all going to fix this together. We're all a group of fighters, right? It's not, hey, we're lit, we're missing Maximus right now, and he's going to walk through that door, and next thing you know, our army is going to, march over the opponent. It was broken before Lamar
will have his revenge in this life or the next. Right. That guy.
That's okay, right. Yes, that's right. I sit here and I'm like, this was broken before Lamar went out, right? And so it wasn't like Lamar was the part that wasn't working. That wasn't the issue. It's a defense that, again, you can talk about injuries all you want. You got to come up with a way to cover for it, right? You have to come up with a way to limit opponents to less than 35 points, less than 32 points, less than 30 points. If Lamar comes in and plays great and they're scoring 30 points, okay, well, you could still be the 2024 Bengals and losing games 42-30. And so that's my question about, John really saying what he said. And John's not, it was interesting because John's not that guy. He's good in press conferences, and I just don't often sense this even as a joke and tongue-in-cheek desperation, it still kind of comes off that way. And by the way, not for nothing, but hamstrings are not exactly cooperative. So you can have someone come back from a hamstring. Let's ask Mike Evans about that. And a week or two later, it's a soft tissue injury and it rears again. Right? Especially if it's someone who uses their hamstrings. And I tend to believe Lamar falls in the category of an NFL player who uses his hamstrings a considerable amount. So that alone makes me worried. And I will say the trade deadline is coming in November. Teams are looking at Baltimore and saying, are they going to sell? Is there someone there? Do they really want to keep Derrick Henry through the run, through the end of the season? And I actually talked to someone who said I'm watching film of Derrick Henry to try and figure out, is this a Baltimore problem or are we seeing a drop off here? And the only reason he would be looking at film of Derrick Henry is to say we might make a call and see if we could possibly plug a hole with this running back. And that's all bad.
Charles, let's unpack that
for the Ravens.
Charles, let's unpack that. Do you think the Ravens, if they continue to lose, would trade Derrick Henry?
I think that there has to be an assessment of what the window is, right? Because Mark Andrews is not going to be there next year. So Mark Andrews is someone that I think becomes a trade piece. I think you have to ask, what is the asset we could get out of Derrick Henry? Okay. Now again, this depends on the record. If if they're in a hole, if you're sitting there and we're now saying, okay, well, this is a 6-loss team, right? And they're heading into the first week of November. Okay, well, then at that point, I have to consider if we can get the right asset for a Derrick Henry, who would, any team I think at this point would have to consider him a rental. And there would have to be a talk about, who would eat what salary in the trade. If you offered me a 2nd-round pick for Derrick Henry, I think if you're the Ravens, you take it. You have to take it. Because there's just I think there's an end of the road for what they were committing to when they paired Derrick Henry with Lamar Jackson. And I truly believe that compact period of time was 2024 and 2025 because they knew they were going to have to make some other decisions with other players on the roster like a Mark Andrews.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you. If they continue to lose and somebody offers them a 2, absolutely. I would drive him to the airport and thank him for everything he's done for the Baltimore Ravens. That said, I find it hard to believe, this is just me, that any team would give up a 2nd-round pick for any player whose age begins with a 3. Now, other than obviously a quarterback who you think is a high-value quarterback with still years ahead of him, that would be a bit different. Would the Chargers do it? I mean, obviously Joe Ortiz is there in LA. There are plenty of connections, like the coaches are brothers, for Pete's sake. Would they do it? I don't know. If you're the Chargers, do you say, with both my tackles out, is Derrick Henry going to even matter? I'm going to roll with Kamani Vidal and with Hassan Haskins. That, to me, would be fascinating. You know what's also interesting? Honestly, this Thursday night game, because as I just said to Kyle there, they're 1-0. The Ravens are 1-0 in the division. They beat the Browns week 2. They still have 5 division games left. 2 of those, obviously, against the Steelers. 2 of those against the Bengals. If the Bengals beat the Steelers on Thursday night in Cincinnati, bear with me here. So the Steelers at that point are 4-2. The Bengals get another win. And while I don't think the Bengals are going to catch the Steelers, it gives the Ravens at least the possibility of coming back from the bye, beating the Bears, getting to 2 wins, and being in it in a mediocre division, and that's putting it nicely, with still 2 games, Charles, left against the Steelers.
Yeah, it's a long season, and you can't convince me that 10 wins maybe wins the AFC North. Like, it may win the AFC North. And 10 is, look, you got to go on a run if you're the Ravens, but it's tangible. I can tell you this, if the Bengals beat the Steelers, we're going to hear Mike Tomlin talking about Andrew Berry again pretty quickly. Like, there's a lot of chaos, left ahead here, but the AFC North feels to me, even when I watch the Steelers, I'm like, hey, there's momentum here. You can feel a sense of lightness coming out of the organization that has not been there in the last couple of years, last several years, right? And I think it's because they have a quarterback who's playing at a high level. He's happy. Mike Tomlin's happy. I think that they're not dealing with some of the defensive questions that they were last season. Now, granted, it's early, relatively healthy, I think, at this stage, and also a team that I think would be willing to add a piece, at the deadline. They've pushed so many chips already into the Aaron Rodgers window, which I really think could be 2026 as well. I would not be surprised if they also go, hey, we only have a small period of time here. Let's go ahead and make sure we max it in 2025 and maybe 2026 and see what asset is out there who could help us, do that. But yeah, the Bengals could create chaos here. And I will say to you, Andrew, I think Mike Tomlin knew that when he saw the Flacco trade go down, because he's sitting there staring at a schedule and going, the Bengals they are absolutely a flaming garbage dump at quarterback right now. Those are 2 winnable games on our schedule. Now you put a quarterback in there who is capable and especially matches up to the skill set of those players. And I think in Mike's mind, he goes, man, we were in really good shape. Now this is a little more difficult.
What the Steelers are doing, and just watching the L22 again this morning, they're playing with 7 linemen on every snap. At least they're opening every drive. With Anderson coming out, 74 tackle eligible, so 6 offensive linemen. And then Darnell Washington is 300 pounds.
He's an offensive.
He's listed
he's offensive tackle. Come on.
He's
a
listed
tackle.
as 264, but he wears
That's
80
a joke.
on his jersey.
Come on.
And he is a legit 300 pounds. And
Yes.
give Arthur Smith credit. First play from scrimmage, heavy run look. And
Man,
he
what a
sneaks to
play.
the line, linebackers bite, 50 yards down the sideline. Now he fumbled at the end. Tyson Campbell tracked him down, but the ball went out of bounds. They are playing with 7 O-linemen on almost every first down and certainly every snap where they know they're going to run the ball. And it's working. To their credit, the Steelers are finding ways to win. But Thursday is very interesting, and we'll leave it with this real quick. Joe Flacco today on the podium, and I love this guy. They were trying to get him to talk about how big of a deal this is. Thursday night football. And you know, Joe always flatline low key. They said, Joe, do you get excited for these Thursday night games? And he said, yeah, 1 o'clock on Sunday is good too. Just like that. And they go, oh, but like when you were younger, did you get excited for Monday night football? And I said, yeah, I think I did.
He's
I remember
not
watching
Andrew.
Monday Night Football as a kid. I remember watching. Yeah, but yeah, I guess I got excited for Monday Night Football playing it. Yeah, I think so.
The only guys who really get excited for Thursday games are the young guys because they don't know enough,
True.
right? They're healthy. They don't know enough. And you know what they think? I got a long weekend. I'm going to party. I get to go do something this weekend. Joe Flacco is not going out on a long weekend and going to be seen out at the club. Okay, so we can just dispense with that.
But between Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco, you have 81 years of quarterback. Thursday night, as Cam Hayward called it today, when Rodgers was addressing the media, he walked by and yelled, "It's the icy hot bowl." And on that note, coming up next, the Bears won. We haven't forgotten you, Bears fans. What we learned about Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson last night. And also, Jerry Jones says he's willing to trade for defense. Excuse me? Maybe you should call the Packers about a pass rusher. You're watching Inside Coverage. Hey, it's Inside Coverage here on Yahoo. I promise, Bears fans, you're getting excited today. You're feeling yourself. You rode the emotional roller coaster on Monday night. We'll talk about your team now. Hats off to the Bears of Chicago in Arlington Park, who won yesterday. They exorcised the demons. They went back to the scene of the Hail Mary, and the first overall pick from a year ago led his team to a victory over the second overall pick from a year ago on a rainy, sloppy night that had all kinds of momentum turns and fumbles and wackiness, and they won 25-24. And the Bears feel good about themselves, Charles, because they started 0-2, and all of a sudden, they have turned things around because they're not turning, for the most part, the ball over. They are now forcing turnovers. So Ben Johnson has made Caleb Williams look like a real quarterback with a good completion percentage and a rating, if you care about ratings, right under 100. But Dennis Allen has turned this defense into an opportunistic defense that can give the ball back to that offense. And that offense has a running back in DeAndre Swift that can pound you late. And even though I thought they were way too conservative and they were way too confident in Jake Moody, who had just been signed off the practice squad a few hours earlier, who had a kick blocked earlier that afternoon, who Kyle Shanahan cut week 1 because he said, quote, he's in his head. It's all mental. Way too confident in that guy last night. But you know what? It all came together, and they're happy today. They're not upset that the Cubs got knocked out. They are fine with life in Chicago right now.
Yeah, Ben Johnson smiled after that win.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, there he is. He's actually smiling. They got him on video with a huge smile, getting mobbed by some players. And, I think, like you said, it's balanced football. They're playing well defensively. They're playing well offensively. They're not turning the ball over and putting the defense into a bind. To me, this looked like the Ben Johnson that we knew from the Lions in terms of how you looked at that offensive scheme. When you looked at how the opportunities were spread out on offense in terms of the skill position players, the list looked like a Costco receipt. I mean, it was so long. I'm sitting there and I'm like, my God, they used 2 running backs got opportunities. 4 wide receivers got opportunities. Both tight ends got opportunities in this game. They all contributed in their own way. And it just never felt, last season there were times where it was like they're force feeding everything through Caleb and he's doing a lot of out of structure stuff. This didn't feel like that at all. It felt very natural. It felt like nothing about anything was too big for him. And you're like, wow, this feels like Ben Johnson has settled people down. He's working wide receivers into the run game. There's the play action. You could see how much the play action was giving Washington fits at times. I'm like, this is kind of Detroit's offense. Like, it's not at the level yet of what Detroit can do, but there's a lot of young pieces here, and you can kind of see the direction of where Ben Johnson's taking this. And what I thought was interesting too is afterward, if you listen to Caleb, he talked about, it was the mantra. It was the Detroit mantra. He was talking about Ben Johnson telling them, you're fighters. You started 0-2. Now you're 3-2 and you're fighting for this. We're doing this together. And I'm like, that's it. This is the transplant. This is what Bears fans wanted. They didn't want to just bring over Ben Johnson. They wanted to bring over the culture also that turned Detroit around as a franchise, which had no right being turned around after decades of doing everything wrong. And now I feel like Ben Johnson has transplanted that, or at least some of that DNA into the Bears. And I think, this 3-2 start and the 3 wins they've ripped off, there feels like there's a momentum and an excitement there that is actually justified. I'm not upset about this at all. I think Bears fans should be very happy with what they're seeing right now.
Absolutely. And I think they are. I'm glad you saw the same thing I did in Caleb last night, both in his immediate post-game interview on the field, where he said that, like, Jake Moody came here and I had no idea really his story. And then I met him this morning. I saw some fans like pushing back saying, wait a minute, Michigan, Jake Moody never missed a kick. USC, like, how do you not know? Guys, calm down. Okay.
What?
Calm down. Like, there are
nobody cares about that.
We just met the kicker. Okay, we saw it earlier this year when John Parker Romo got there to Atlanta, hit the game winner, and they're like, oh, good to know you. That was live on TV there on NBC with Melissa after the game. So Caleb had one of those. And there was very much, you might have seen my eyes darting around the room here. I was looking for one of my, I'm a Star Wars fan, like one of my little Yodas. They're not within reach, because there very much was a this is the way, right?
Yeah.
From The Mandalorian.
Yep.
Like, this is the way vibe I got from Caleb last night. I do think it's significant as well that they were 0-4 under Caleb in primetime. The Bears, they're a big market. Look, they're a big brand. They're one of the charter franchises. They're always going to get the big stage. And they have had so many big disappointments of late with Caleb Williams. And this game meant so much to their fans because of the constant comparison to the guy taken after Caleb, Jaden Daniels, who almost took his team, the Commanders, as a rookie to the Super Bowl a year ago. Bears fans, they're never going to get over it. They're never going to, until Caleb does the same. And even then, the comparison will be constant. It will be for the duration of their careers. Is it fair? No. But it's going to be inescapable. Much like we talked to and Herbert yesterday. This means a lot more at 1-2 than it does at 5-6. And the Bears, if they had not picked up that fumble, if the wet ball had not slipped from the hands of Jaden Daniels and Bill Krosky-Merritt, and the Bears had not been given life, the narrative today would be, I can't believe they called the left tackle for an illegal formation to take away what should have been our game-winning touchdown. I tried to fight back against him, saying Cam Robinson got called for it in Pittsburgh, taking away a 30-yard Jerry Jeudy catch on Sunday, and that everyone's getting called for it, even when it looks like it's not the right call. They didn't want to have any of it. You want to talk about personal insults? I got the personal insults last night when I pointed that out on Twitter. That would have been the narrative. We got robbed. Instead, the sun is shining, and everyone's Italian beef tastes good today in Chicago. Even all Italian beef is just a soggy French dip sandwich with peppers and onions. It's just soggy.
This is slander.
Roast beef.
What are we What are we doing here? This is slanderous. What do you?
I used to
why
live
would
there.
you
I
do
love
that?
Chicago. I love Chicago. I love me some Portillo's. Italian beef's overrated, dude. I'm sorry.
No, you gotta submerge it. You gotta leave it in there for like a good 20 seconds.
Do you like soggy food? I don't like soggy food.
I like that soggy food. I can tell you that. Look, the Bears. Here's the thing too. You exercise the demons of the Hail Mary too, right? Because the whole entire organization fell apart after the Hail Mary, pass from Jaden Daniels the year before. And I'll never forget, Caleb being on the sidelines thinking, hey, we won this game. Look what, this is great. What a moment for us. And then Jaden Daniels takes it away from him. And not only do you exercise it, but you had to have the drive to kick the field goal. Now, you can probably... There were times where I'm like, hey, man, try to get the touchdown here because you don't want to put it on Jake Moody's foot. But they put together the drive they absolutely had to have. The kicker comes in who you really can't trust, and he kicks it. And you're kind of like, hey, you know what? It broke our way. Last year, it didn't break our way in an unbelievable fashion. This year, it did break our way, and we had a lot to do with it. So I think the scales are starting to even out between Jaden and Caleb Williams a little bit. And, like you said, he'll always kind of have that comparison to deal with, and that's just how it goes. But I think there was a counterpunch that happened on Monday night, and it's great for the Bears.
I also want people to remember that before the Hail Mary, Caleb put together 2 fourth-quarter drives in the final 6-7 minutes.
He won it
to get him into the red zone. It's not his fault. It's not his fault they called a play to hand it off to an offensive lineman. Okay, it wasn't his fault. The play came in. Anyway, we have like 4 minutes remaining here, Charles, on Jerry Jones. You have to nail this for social, okay? We're going to do Jerry Jones and the Cowboys here. Jerry Jones said today that basically, hey, he's willing to trade for help on defense. They're getting Kenny Clark for all intents and purposes for free because the Packers are paying most of that contract. So, yeah, as we have a comically bad defense, to quote Peter Griffin from Family Guy years ago, circus ugly defense, maybe we should go out and trade for some defense. Jerry, I got an idea. Maybe you call the Packers and ask about a pass rusher. Actually, I would go a step further. Don't punt, right? We've talked so much about how Brandon Aubrey is a weapon, right? Brandon Aubrey could be the MVP, right? I'm kidding. But he could be as valuable a player as there is in the NFL because he can score from anywhere. Don't punt. I don't ever want to see Brian Anger again. He should serve one purpose and one purpose only. He's your holder. He's your holder for Brandon Aubrey. Other than that, don't put him on the field because your defense can't stop anybody. Dak is playing out of his mind. Dak is an MVP candidate. Don't let Dak off the field. You can't punt. But, Jerry, if you want to trade for defense, you can do that as well.
Yeah, gold star for George Pickens and Javonte Williams, by the way, too. I mean, a couple guys there definitely playing, off the roof right now for the Cowboys. And look, I think Jerry's been talking about this all season long, about the idea that, hey, we got draft picks, and these draft picks, they give us flexibility, and that flexibility, if there's a player out there that I can add, I will do that. I will, he knows DeMarvion Overshown's coming back at the linebacker spot. That can help the pass rush. He knows there is something to be gotten from health. But that said, I do think there are some defensive pieces that could be there at the trade deadline. Look at the Miami Dolphins, where they're going. The pass rush, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb are 2 guys that are going to get talked about pretty consistently. Obviously, Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati is another pass rusher that I think teams are going to wonder, hey, can we peel him off and try to figure out, the salary load, who keeps what and what asset works. And then I think this is interesting. The Titans, obviously they fired Brian Callahan. So everyone's saying, well, is there going to be like a fire sale situation here? So people are talking about Jeffrey Simmons, right? The defensive lineman, who I think very much fits into what Jerry's mentality is over the many years, the kind of defensive stars he likes. Jeffrey Simmons is that kind of star. He talks, he carries it on the field. He's got some nasty to him. The funny thing, though, the Titans are already pretty much putting it out there like, we don't want to trade Jeffrey Simmons. Like, we have Jeffrey Simmons for 2 more years after this, 2026, 2027, on a contract, frankly, right now at a little over $20 million a year annual average value. That's pretty attractive. To me, this is what you say when you tell teams, try hard. Don't come to us with a mid-round pick. If you want to come to us about Jeffrey Simmons, start the conversation with a first-round pick, and then let's work from there. I actually would be in favor of it. I think the Cowboys have to make that call to see, look, if we put a first-round pick on the table, knowing that we have the money to bring Jeffrey Simmons in and probably give him the salary bump he's going to want. He's going to want a contract adjustment in 2026 and 2027 if he continues to play the way he's playing right now. The Cowboys can give him that salary cap adjustment in 2026 and 2027 on that contract. And I actually think it would be something that they should pursue. Now, again, the Titans are going to keep saying, we're not giving him up. But that's how you drive a hard bargain. I think Jerry's telling the truth here. I do think he will look and see if there's something to get there at the trade deadline. I don't think this is just Jerry going, let me keep us relevant.
I was looking at the numbers there that we put on the screen. They still boggle the mind. 400 yards. Thank you, Madison. 411 yards and 31 points a game. I mean,
here and okay. So Andrew, I will ask you,
Arena League.
Andrew, I'll ask you in your experience, and this plays into this. What if it's a Mike Nolan situation? You know, back years ago, Mike McCarthy's first season, and it's a coordinator who does not fit the personnel that he has. It's a scheme that does not necessarily
that is the case. But how much patience do you have?
Right. Then to me, if that's the reality, then I don't know that's fixable unless you're willing to make an in-season change with one of your coaches, with Matt Eberflus. Now, he said he won't at this point. That's not what he wants to do.
Yeah, he's a good defensive coach. He had been to the building before. They like him, right? That's why they brought him back. But right now, it's square pegs and round holes, and it ain't working. And I mean, you look at some of the L-22. Yeah, we're playing zone, but like, it's like it almost looks like the skills challenge at the Pro Bowl, where you just have the big tackling dummies out there and they're stationary.
Yeah,
and you just have the quarterback trying to.
The zone's not working.
Yeah,
it's not.
No, they're just trying to throw between the stationary tackling dummies. Back in the day, like they would have they'd have them on golf carts and people would be driving them around. Remember that?
I do.
Those fun shows back in the day. All right, this was a fun show as well. Charles Robinson, sincere apologies for calling you Frank Schwab earlier. Not anything wrong with that.
You know, and also apologize to the Italian roast beefs.
Love me some Chicago food. I just never got in.
Frank, the Italian roast beef of sports writers.
Wow. On that note, please join us tomorrow where Brock Bowers is scheduled to appear. He's not necessarily scheduled to play this week, but he is scheduled to appear on the show. For the guy on the other side of the screen who's actually named Charles Robinson, my name's Andrew Siciliano. Thanks for listening to and thanks for watching Inside Coverage on Yahoo.